Okay, so to start off, so again, the first application of your definite integral would be the area of a plane region. And this can be divided into three different categories, or let's say three different scenarios that you can um, that you can have as your graph, or any situation that you're going to have upon graphing your equations. So you have a region above the x-axis, a region below the x-axis, or it may be a region between two curves. So again, I think the primary skill that you need to obtain here is you know how to graph your equations. Okay, so muna siyang important kon. So graph your equations. Okay. Okay, so there are just two formulas that you're going to remember for the area of a plane region, and this can be subdivided, or this can be categorized into two different aspects. We have the vertical strip, then the other one would be the horizontal strip. Okay, so in vertical strip, so let's say this one is the vertical strip. So the formula for the area would be the integral of y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. So that would be the formula. So how are we going to define y top and y bottom? So for example, this one is your graph. So ako lang siyang i-exaggerate kamaya. Let's use another color lang. Okay, so for example, this one is the first graph. Then let's say the other one is blue button. Button. Okay. So for y top, whatever is the graph that is touching the upper part of the vertical strip, that would be the y top equation. So for example, it is touching the green equation, or the green graph. So this is equal to the green equation in terms of x. So that's why it's y top, because y equals something man ang atong mga graph, diba? So for example, y equals mx plus b for a line. For a parabola, it's y equals x squared. So again, in terms of f of x, diba? Then for y bottom, so again, this one will be the y top. And then this one would be the blue graph. So whatever is touching the bottom part of the vertical strip, that would be the y bottom. And again, that would be the blue part. So again, we all in terms of x, because this one is dx, diba? So dapat all in terms of x. So again, why it's presented as y top and y bottom, because again, our equations are expressed in y, diba? So for example, for your line, by its y equals mx plus b, diba? So in terms, so y siya, but equals to x siya in terms of x, yeah. So for parabola, you may have it as y equals x squared, diba? Or in standard form, That would be y minus k plus minus 4a x minus h squared, diba? So I hope that you know how to differentiate your equations from parabola, ellipse, line, hyperbola, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that would be the formula for the area using vertical strip. So of course um, the x1 and the x2 will depend on the points of intersection between the two curves. So again, it may be um, in the three scenarios presented. So it may be just above the x-axis, or it may be below, or it may be a combined version. So from x1 to x2, so since you know from your basic um, integrals, diba, on how to apply your definite integrals. So this time, this one is from x1 to x2. So from left to right na siya. Okay, so the idea behind this topic is that we are representing one vertical strip, but in fact, we are adding up multiple vertical strips up until x2. So muna siya yung the concept behind the vertical strip. So we just take one and then we represent it throughout the whole region using using your integrals. Okay. So again, if you want to further understand the equation, so you might think of this as length times width. So this one is length, and then dx is the width, diba? So mura siya the area of the rectangle, diba? Y top minus y bottom, that would be the length. Then times the width of the vertical strip, that is the differential x. So I forgot to write differential x. Nah. And then from x1 to x2, so meaning adding up multiple numbers of verticals, I mean rectangles, that would give us the area of your bounded region. So another another way of solving this one is using the vertical, I mean rather the horizontal strip. And then the formula is, so again, if this one is your horizontal strip, so this time is mura siya ma-reverse because instead of your equations in terms of x, so this time in terms of y na pod siya. So the formula would be so the formula would be x sub r, so meaning that would be x right minus x left and then dy. Then the limit of integration would be from y1 to y2. Okay, so again, it's the same concept. It's most likely length times width since it's a rectangle. So again, let's try to define again the equation. So let's say um, same graph siguro na. Okay, so again, let's try to define again the different parts of the equation. So again, the right portion of the horizontal strip, so whatever the right portion touching is that would be the x right equation. So since this one is touching the blue portion, xr, so meaning this pertains to the blue equation. So again, it should be in terms of y. So x equals y something. Ano siya. So if ever you are given with, let's say, variables in terms of y, so you have to try to transpose everything so that everything should be in terms of y na sad, diba? So x equals y something na sad siya. So again, the left portion of the vertical, rather the horizontal strip, whatever it is touching, that would be the x left equation. Okay, so since this one is the green portion, ano siya ang green equation. And then dy would be the thickness. So of course, the thickness of this one is dy. So di ba, marag same gyapon siya, that would be length times width gyapon. But this time, the length is now um same di gyapon siya de. Diba, length times the width.
Excuse me, sir.
Mm.
What if mabali ang graph, sir? What if dili inana ang kon, sir? Formation sa ay mong porma sa kon sa graph. Like,
Uh,
what if mabali, sir?
mabali ang graph.
Mm.
Say pasabot ni mo mabali man.
Like, if kana siya, sir, kay, let's say, from left to right, iyang inclination, sir, ba? What if from right to left, iyang inclination?
Oh, pareha gyapon na siya. Let's
Kasi yung magyapon, gamitan,
uh,
sir. Na
ato
formula.
i-try ha. So yung pasabot if inaana, di ba? Other way around na pud siya.
Ah, yes, sir. Nga, what if sa sir kanang horizontal rigid ang kwan?
Na.
Horizontal rigid ang form.
So for example, inaana siya. So mabali na po na yung equation, di ba? So for example, it will depend siguro na siya sa inyong equation. So for example, this one is vertical. So I think ang rule dyan niya na is whatever is touching the upper portion, that would always be the y top. And then this one would be always be the y bottom. So whatever is the case sa inyong graph. So kaning graph na akong i-present kanina is just for illustration that the y top that you're going to use is this portion because that is touching that particular portion of the equation. So for example, ano na sad siya? So x right minus x left. So mao siyang mabali na sad, di ba? So the right portion is now touching the green part, di ba? X right. This
Then
is
kung walay y
x
top
left.
o y bottom or x top or ay x right o x left.
Um,
Ay,
dapat kuan jud
version,
siya.
sorry.
Dapat it's always bounded jud siya.
Bounded siya.
Oh, bounded siya dapat para mahimo siyang area. Kaya I think wala man tayo area nga open, di ba? Anang sa ato ang geometry nga mag-solve tag area sa triangle niya. Kuto ba diri ang kuan, di ba? Ang portion. So dapat bounded region jud siya or closed figure jud siya para ma-solve ninyo ang area. So sige lang, mag-discuss mo examples rin para inyong makita or inyong ma-differentiate between the two. So pili siya inana. So other examples would be let's say muna siya inyong kuan, inyong x and y axis. So it may be a triangle. So let's say muna siya inyong line. Yeah, let's say line lang gipangita but it's still an area, di ba? So you have y equals 0, x equals 0, and then this line here, di ba? Y equals mx plus b. So pwede gyapon siya ma-solve ang area kay you have different equations man. So it could be vertical strip and it could be horizontal strip. So ana siya. So either of the two lang yung gamito na either vertical or horizontal. So of course, you'll be able to look at the advantage of um, with the vertical strip and the horizontal strip. Okay, there are certain scenarios nga you'll be given with complicated equations. So for example, I'm going to write it here in the lower left. So let's say kaninyo hang parabola. So x minus h, let's say x minus 9 squared. So in terms of y, so okay siya, di ba? So it's okay for vertical strip, but in terms of x, you still have to convert this one into its corresponding y terms, di ba? So yung pa expand x squared or let's say maglisod siya kuan, di ba? Lisod siya i-expand kay if you expand x squared minus 18x plus 91. So if we're going to isolate x, duha man nakabuk x, di ba? X squared and x. So the other way would be getting the square root. So square root of y equals x minus 9. Then isolating x, you have square root of y plus 9. So of course, medyo okay gyud siya tanawon, but when you try to integrate this one in your calculator, medyo mag-take siya time because we are dealing with radical expressions. So I think muna na siya ang disadvantage in the following examples later. Kay there will be equations wherein it's better to use vertical strip. There will be equations that it's better to use horizontal strip. So of course, bisag unsa nga strip gyapon, pili gyapon siya kay at the end of the solution, you're still going to use your calculator. So it won't really matter if lisod ba siya or dili. So I think the matter lang siya sa time difference in solving the answer. So if you're dealing with complicated equations, the calculator might take a bit longer to give you an answer. But if it's narrowed down or the answer or the equation is simple, na inyong plug in sa inyong calculator, so of course it's a faster way of getting the answer, di ba? Okay, so again, just try to remember the formula. Area. So vertical strip and then horizontal strip. So I think the only rule here is that um, the consistency of your vertical strip or horizontal strip will not repeat itself. So meaning sa putana is that dili ma-zero out ang inyong kuan. So for example, what I'm talking about is that from x1 to x2 dapat ang gitouch sa top and bottom is the same. So same goes for the horizontal strip. Ang gitouch sa left and sa right would also be the same from y1 going to y2. So dili siya mo change. Okay? Dapat consistent ang pag-touch sa inyong horizontal and vertical strip. Okay, so I think so these are the steps. So sketch. So diba, it's really important to sketch the region. So to do that, you have to before sketching the region, you have to sketch first the equations, diba? Okay. So this one is just the other steps. So you may just follow this one. So after probably after graphing the region, so you may use directly the formula after probably after um, number three. Now, whether you're using a vertical strip or horizontal strip. So I think the other example that akong giingon ganina nga it dapat consistent na yung left and right and top and bottom. So I think one example for this one is kani sigurong kuan inani na graph. So let's say you have a parabola. Saan na siya para makuha na? Marag, sige lang, ato lang siyang makita later sa example. Okay, so let's start answering your um, application, so area. So let's try solving this one first, and then let's try solving it using the vertical strip first, and then afterwards is we try to solve using the horizontal strip if it gives the same answer. So the first one is we use the vertical strip. So most likely the problem will always be this one. It's just a one sentence na problem, but what you have to do is a lot during the calculation aspect. So find the area of the region bounded. So area of the region bounded. So by the line y equals 3x and the curve y equals x squared. So this one is a curve, but really it's a parabola. So it's a parabola because one is linear, one is second degree one a term. So again, probably it's a bit fast that I'm talking about parabola, hyperbola, but I'm assuming that you have this one in your senior high. Okay, so the first step is always to graph your equation. So to do that is, I think there are a couple of ways to um, graph your equation. So if you know the mode table sa inyong calculator, uh, mode 7 mas ng table siguro. So you may also do that one. So mode 7 sa calculator. So ang problem is wala ko yung calculator dire, so I cannot really do the simulation. So sige lang. So ang inyong best solution ani is you para ma-shortcut siya. So I'm not going to do so a super basic lang siguro. Is to equate is to equate both equations so that you may able to get the point of intersection. Okay. So equate. So equating gives us the points of intersection. Okay. And again, it's a faster manner of solving your um, bounded region. So as long as siguro you know what the graph looks like, so probably it will be an easy part on your in your solution. But again, if you try to equate your equations but you don't know what the graph really looks like, so medyo problema gyapon siya. Okay, so diba line, then what if this one is a curve but you don't know what the curve is, di ba? Kaya daga ba yung curve? So pili siya ana, pili siya bitin, pili siya hyperbola, di ba? Ana siya. Pili po siya sine wave, di ba? Oh. So na magdepende na siya sa inyong curve. But again, if you know that this one is a parabola, so automatic na siya, di ba? Ana. And then this one is facing upwards kay linear man ng y, di ba? So whichever is linear, muna siya ang inyong direction sa inyong kuan. So muna siya. So equating the two equations, so y equals 3x, and then the other one would be y equals x squared. So equating both y's, so you're going to have 3x equals x squared. Okay? So isolating all the terms, dapat equal to 0 siya. So x squared minus 3x equals 0. So factor out x, this would give us x times x minus 3 equals 0. So points of intersection would be at x equals 0 and then x equals 3. So I hope that you know how to determine points of intersection. So kani siya, algebra na siya. Okay, so since muna siya ang pinaka-shortcut, so let me show you why it's a shortcut method. So let me try to graph it first. So bali mo dyan na siyang struggle sa kaninga topic. So you have to graph first before getting the answer. Okay, so points of intersection is at 0 and then 3. So kani siya is kuwang pa rin siya atong solution. So at x equals 0, so at x equals 0 first, so let's try using the first equation. So y equals 0, 3 times 0, so y equals 0. So points of intersection would be at 0 and 0. So second one would be at x equals 3, so y equals 3 times 3, so y equals 9. So the other points of intersection would be at 3 and 9. Okay, so first one is 0, 0. So let's say this one is at 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lapas na gamay. So this would be the second point of intersection. So again, since we know that it's a line and then it's a parabola, so all you have to do is to graph it first. So I'm going to graph the line first. Okay, oh my go. So much struggle basta online. Na. Okay, so let's say this one is the line. And then again, since I know that this one is a parabola, so ana siya, di ba? So of course, it's a two-sided parabola. Ano siya, but of course, we are just concerned with the area of the bounded region between the line y equals 3x and then the parabola. So looking at the bounded region, so the bounded region is obviously the one between blue and red. So again, points of intersection here. So this would be 0, 0, and then this would be 3 and 9. Okay, so again, since we're going to use the vertical strip first, so we're going to draw first the vertical strip. So notice that again, um, the tip here is that the vertical strip should be consistent all throughout your area, di ba? So dapat it's always touching the blue part, whichever place you're going to put your vertical strip. And then the bottom part would always be the green graph all throughout the equation. So ako pasabot, so what if I'm going to write, what if I'm going to put my vertical strip here? Diba? So it's still blue minus green, diba? So what if at the top portion, vertical strip? So that's still blue minus green. So ana siya kung masabot, dapat consistent ang inyong vertical strip. It should always be touching the same equation regardless where I put the vertical strip at. Okay? So y top, this one. Y top is the blue portion. Y bottom is the green graph. And then the thickness would be dx. So upon upon getting the graph, so all you have to do is just to use the equation, di ba? So area is equal to integral of y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. Okay, so integral of, so y top, that's the blue portion, that's the line. So this becomes y top, diba? So y top is equal to 3x minus y bottom. So y bottom is this one. So this would be the y bottom minus x squared. So x1 to x2, that's from left to right. So 0 going towards 3. 0 to 3. And again, since you can use your calculator, so that would be the area equals, so again, since this one is area, this would be in square units. Okay, so what would be the answer? Okay, okay, no answer. What's the value?
Wait a minute.
So of course you have to know how to plug this equation in your calculator. So
9/2, sir, or 4.5.
so 4.5 or 4.5 square units. So don't forget to write the unit square units. So it's pretty simple again if you just know how to graph your equations. Um, I think that's what's the difficult part in most of my previous students. So most of them don't know how to graph equations. And I think probably that's the effect also of the K to 12 because before the K to 12 happened in our days during my college, so we have a subject called analytic geometry. So we have to graph lines. We know how to, we know the different versions of the equations, the standard equation, the general equation. So we also have parabola, ellipse, hyperbola, and any other types of curves. So, yeah. So, so if you don't have that one in your senior high, so probably you'll be having a difficulty in the topics that have to come in the second half of the semester. Okay, it's purely graphing din siya. So especially in the volume, so you have to rotate the equation, surface area, still rotation, and it's all about equations, right? So this is the solution. So of course you can use Desmos to verify your graph, but of course during the exam, there's no way for you to verify your graph, diba, using Desmos K. You have to be focused on the exam. Okay, so questions for the first solution. Okay, so I think there's no question. So let's try to move
Wala.
on with the second way or method. So we now use the horizontal strip. So I just borrowed the graph so that we won't have to graph it again. So it's the same equation as the first, as the previous one that we did. So it's still y equals 3x, then y equals x squared. But this time is that we're going to use the horizontal strip. So horizontal strip, that would be x right minus x left. Okay. So again, you have to be consistent. So again, whether I placed the horizontal strip at the bottom, so notice that the right and left is always red minus, I mean blue minus red. So for example, at this portion here, it's blue minus red. So again, you have to be consistent that the right and the left portions are touching the same equation. Okay, so again by formula. So again, this one, x right is this blue graph here. This one is x left, the red graph. And then the thickness would be dy. So again, by formula, we now have area is equal to integral of x right minus x left dy. And that would be from, again, y1 to y2, from 0 to 9. So our problem here is that our equations are not expressed in x yet. X equals y something. So we still have to convert this one into its corresponding x versions. So divided by 3, you now have x equals y over 3. Then this one is that we have x equals square root of y. Okay? So this one is the blue graph, ang kaning parabola. And then this one is the red graph. So this one is blue and it refers to XR. Then the other one is red, diba? So ako lang i-change the color para X left. Okay. So solving now the equations, you now have from 0 to 9. Okay, so let's try to make it a clean lang siguro. Ito na siyang i-y1 to y2 lang sa. So y1 to y2. Okay, so x sub r, that would be again the curve square root of y. and then minus, that would be y over 3. Then this is dy. So again, you can just use your calculator in solving the answer. But again, if you try to compare it with the other equation, since this one has a square root, so probably it will take a bit longer to give the answer. And also, if you want to do this manually, so diba, I think you'll be having a dilemma if you're going to integrate radical expressions compared with simple algebraic expressions. So hopefully that the answer will also still be the same.
Nine over two gyapon, sir.
Okay, so it's still 9 over 2 or 4.5. So again, take note, whichever strip you're going to use, it will also give, it will still give you the same answer, but again, the difference between the two types of method will be in the equation itself. Okay, it may be a complicated version for the horizontal strip, but a simple one in the vertical strip or vice versa. So again, you just have to check the equations kung siya masa yun, di ba? So maybe it's better to express it in y and use the vertical strip, or the other way around and use the horizontal strip. Okay, so this is the solution. So still 9 over 2 or 4.5 square units. So questions for the first problem regarding vertical strip and horizontal strip before we proceed with the next example. Okay, so no question.
Wala pa, sir.
Okay, so let's move on with the next example. Okay, so so this time it's now a difficult um, equation. So you now have two curves. So you're going to have to find the area of the region bounded by curves y equals x to the power 4 and y equals 2x minus x squared. Okay, so if you're going to try to define this one is already fourth degree, but it's still a curve, but it doesn't have any special type of let's say line compared with, I think the only special line that you're going to have in your analytic geometry is up until hyperbola or katong x squared and y squared. But for x cubed, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree, so on, they are considered as general curves, and it may vary from graph to graph on the certain degree of the exponent. But this one is parabola, the second one. So this one is parabola. Okay, so again, the first thing that you need to do is find the points of intersection. What you have to do is to try to equate the two equations and then look for the points of intersection upon getting the one. Equating, and from equating you get the points of intersection. So let's start with y equals x to the power 4, and the other one is y equals 2x minus x squared. So you now have x to the power 4 equals 2x minus x squared. So isolating all on the left side, x to the power 4 plus x squared minus 2x equals 0. Okay. So you can try to factor out x. So you're going to have x cubed plus um, x only, and then minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so the first root is x equals 0. But for the other root, so since this one is to the third degree, so probably the shortcut version here is Gaussian calculator. I think it's at mode 5 and an I cube. So just try to explore your calculator. Basta ka ng figure nga, try looking at the function in your calculator wherein it gives you this format: a x cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d is equal to 0. So muna siya yung pangitaon ng mode sa calculator. So again, that would be the shortcut thing to do in solving your equations. So again, just try to use your calculator. So the different um, points of intersection would be at 0 and 1 only. 0 and x equals 1. Okay, so at x equals 0, so let's try using the first equation. Okay, it's a bit simpler. Y equals 0 to the power of 4. So y is equal to 0. So the first point of intersection would be at 0 and 0. So next is at x equals 1. So still the same equation. Y equals 1 to the power 4. So y is equal to 1. So the second point of intersection would be at 1 and 1. So of course, it's not really always that you have to use the first equation, but we also use the second equation. But it's a bit complicated, di ba? Kay taas yung solution. So y equals 2 times 0 minus 0 squared. So it's still 0, di ba? And let's say this one, the other one is y equals 2 times 1 minus 1 squared. Diba? So 2 minus 1, it will still give you a 1 value. So of course, either of the two equations you can use in determining the y points. Okay? So for the graph, so let's just try to skip the graph. So I think you have to do some learning on your own on how to graph your equations, because again, probably it should be part of your senior high subjects, and or again, if it's not part of your senior high subject, so probably you need to do some studying by yourself on how to graph equations. So let's try this problem. So this is the graph. So the blue one is the x to the power 4, and then the red one is the parabola. So Ako lang i-label ah. This one is the blue graph. Then the other one is the red. Okay, so by formula, so again, this one is vertical strip. Vertical strip. So area is equal to y top minus y bottom dx. And that would be from 0 to x1 to x2. So you're going to have, so of course I'm going to solve it vertically first, and then let's try comparing it with the horizontal strip. So 0 to 1, 0 to 1, and then y top is the red graph, 2x minus x squared. So ako lang yan. Then minus x to the power of 4, y bottom, and then dx. So of course you can just try to figure this one in using your calculator. And this should be in square units. Okay, so bilang answer. Hello. So how much is the answer? So waiting for the answer. So
7/15, sir.
okay. So nana. So 7 over 15 square units. So let's try comparing it with the horizontal strip. So horizontal strip. So again, notice that if you try to create a horizontal strip here, again, it's consistent that the right and the left are always blue and red. So this one is x right, this one is x left. So our problem here is we're going to convert it to x and x equals something, di ba? So for the blue portion, x equals y to the fourth root siya, di ba? But for the other term, probably this one is a bit difficult because you have x, um, let's try to transpose it. X squared minus 2x equals negative y. Okay. Then completing the square, you're going to have x squared and then minus 2x plus 4, plus 1 rather. Then the other side would be minus y plus 1, diba? Completing the square, and then to balance the equation, this would give us x minus 1 squared. Then the other one would be negative y plus 1. So getting the square root of all equations, so you have x minus 1 equals the square root of, let's say, 1 minus y, and then isolating x, so x is equal to the square root of 1 minus y plus 1. So it should be our right, diba? So this would be our equations. Okay, so notice that if you're going to use the horizontal strip now, so let's try solving it. So medyo mabuang na yung calculator. Kay kuha na kayo kanang is super complicated. So horizontal strip. So area is equal to um, x right minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So integral of, so again y1 is 0, y2 is 1, so still the same 0 to 1, but now our x right is the blue graph, so that would be the fourth root of y, and then minus x left, the red graph, which is the parabola, that would be the square root of 1 minus y plus 1. So kana try plugging it in your calculator if kaya ba. So square units. Sige, so what's the answer na? Or it's still loading pa? So I hope that you know how to convert equations in terms of x and in terms of y, like transposing the values, getting the roots, getting the square. No. Okay, I think it's all algebra, Jude. Okay, so hopefully the answer is still 7 over 15. So again, try to check it in your calculator. Okay, so wala pa?
7 over 15, sir. Sakto ra siya, sir.
So 7 over 15 gyapon siya, but it took a long time for the calculator to give you the answer, di ba? Compared sa vertical strip. So I think that's the difference that you can see, di ba? So it's a matter of the equation should. Okay, so I think mura dyan na siya yung problem later on what to use. It's whether it should be the vertical strip or the horizontal strip, and then the other problem would be on graphing the equations. So I think that would be the struggle in you later. So of course, since we're running out of time, so it's already 10:12. So this one is the answer or the solution. So this one is using the vertical strip, but it doesn't have a solution for horizontal strip. So I just showed you what would it look like if we're going to use the horizontal strip. Okay, so for your next assignment is I'm going to post this one later in Canvas, but I'm going to give you the answer directly para you can verify your answer. So just look at this one later. Okay, I won't be showing this one to you. Sige lang, ako lang i-post na lang dito para kita ninyo ang answer as well. So you're going to solve 6 problems. So of course, in graphing your equations, try as much as possible to do your own graph first, and then verify using Desmos so that you can have a sense of kanang kuan ba, verification sa inyong side. You can verify your graph if it's correct, so on and so forth. All right. So any questions before we end our session? So probably our last meeting would be on Monday before the Holy Week. So I won't be meeting on Wednesday, okay, para at least to be fair with the TTH class. Okay, if we're going to meet on Wednesday, so we cannot meet on Thursday sa other class. Okay, I think that's the start of the long weekend. Okay, so if you don't have any questions as of the moment, so see you all on Monday, and then I'm going to post the video recording and the assignment this probably this day or this afternoon, depending on the internet. Okay, sige. So thank you all, and see you next week.
Goodbye and thank you, sir.
Goodbye.